Hey everybody! I was just trying to get my dog to stop barking. Good morning, happy Tuesday. I think everything is running well. Let me know down in the comments if you have any trouble hearing or seeing me. Good morning, Arlette. Oh, hi, Rebecca. I'm so glad you made it in time. I am going to be playing with some fun stuff today. Hi, Heather. I hope everybody has got their coffee or tea, or I know some people are on the East Coast. It's probably lunchtime for them. I'm still waking up with my coffee myself, personally. It's usually got to get through one cup before you've got the 100% Charlene. Right now, it's kind of the 75% Charlene. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to be making some cards with the Wreath building sets, one card, and very cute, very easy to do, and hopefully you guys will pick up some tips and tricks as we go. If you don't know me, my name's Charlene. I am one of the design team members for Picket Fence Studios. I go live every Tuesday at noon Central, so you're always welcome to come hang out with us and get crafty. All right, I see we've got several people in here, so I'm going to go ahead and drop you guys down over to my desktop here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to show you the 3 new Wreath building sets that were released this month. This one's the centers and foliage. You've got these fun center pieces and then like leaves and little spare pieces and stuff like that. Very cute. This one is the St. Patrick's Day set. I don't know, there's some glare there. But you've got like a little leprechaun and some beer steins and horseshoes and clovers and all these fun little stamps. And then this is the cupcake for you. And it has, let's see, 8 different cupcakes and some cherries and strawberries and little cute things, and some nice sentiments. So I'm going to use a couple of different things from these in order to make today's card, because I want to show you that you can also switch up and combine these sets. You don't have to just stick with one. I think that's something as crafters we tend to get fixated on one set and forget that we can kind of mix and match. So I wanted to do a little mix and matching today. If you have any questions about any of the supplies I'm using, up at the top of the chat is a link to the supply list, and also in the description for the YouTube video, there is a link as well. Or I'm sorry, the supply list down in the description. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm trying to do 2 things at once here. I'm going to go over to the Facebook, and there we go. Okay, I posted the supply list in the comments on the Facebook Live as well. I'm trying to get better here at using both YouTube and Facebook for the lives, so that way everyone can come hang out, no matter what kind of platform is sort of your preferred platform. So I've got my stamp wheel here and an A2 size piece of cardstock. We're going to be doing some Copic, well actually Olo marker coloring, but any alcohol markers will work for this. And I'm not too worried that this is perfectly centered, because I'm going to be cutting out the circle once I'm done. But what I like to do when I am making a wreath card using my stamp wheel is I pay real close attention to all of the radial lines here on the grid, on the cover plate, because that's going to help me ensure that I get a really nice looking circle and wreath. So I'm going to start out with the circle piece here from the St. Patrick's Day set, because I think it's fun with all those little dots. And I'm actually going to just put it right along the center here of my stamp wheel. So I've just got it lined up there in that center circle. It's gonna make it real easy peasy when I put my little cupcakes around here. I'm gonna stamp this out in some black hybrid ink. Now, hybrid ink is good for alcohol marker coloring. It is also good for watercoloring, which is nice. So it's kind of an all-in-one ink solution. And I do want this to be really bold and dark, so I'm gonna go ahead and double stamp it. Who all has stamp wheels? Let me know down in the comments. They are really fun for making wreaths. If you don't have one, you absolutely can do this with an acrylic block. You don't necessarily need a stamp wheel. Stamp wheel just makes it super easy to get everything nice and lined up. Okay, we're gonna bring in the cupcakes for you. And there's lots of different options here. I'm going to probably just stick, I think, with the basic cupcake for this card. But like there is one with a cherry and one with candles. This is like got a little candy stick, a raspberry, a heart, all kinds of different ones. And this technique is really good for any small stamps that you have in your stash as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little stamp and I'm going to line it up. I'm going to stand up for this. I'm going to line it up so it's just outside of our little circle that we stamped in there. And I'm going to line it right along that top line in the center. So now I know that it will stamp perfectly when I rotate my cover plate here. So I like to do this where I do 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. It just helps me make sure I stamp everything where it's supposed to get stamped. So we've got our first one done. Our second one. I made a quick sample card yesterday, you guys, and all day long afterwards I wanted cupcakes. Still have not managed to get my cupcake. Side effect, guys, of using this release, which has all of these adorable baking themed items. Yeah, it makes you want to eat them. I have a sweet tooth though. I'm not so much a chip or salty person. I'm definitely more baked goods. Okay, so we've got our 4. And now I'm just gonna make sure before I put my plate down that I have this right in between those 2 cupcakes. And if you've never used a stamp wheel, it can take a little bit of time to get used to, but once you get used to it, it is very easy to use. They're usually available in the Picket Fence Studios online store, but it looks like we're sold out of them right now. But I did include that in the link because if they come back, it'll be there. See, so now what I do, I don't know if you guys notice, this is how the stamp wheel I find works most effective for me, is when I'm putting things down, I always just kind of slide it into those grooves. So I know that when it goes down and fits in the top grooves, it's going to go down exactly where it's supposed to. There we go. How quick was that? Super fast. Super fast this morning. Who else is here? I see we've got lots of people here. Introduce yourself down in the comments. I know we've got some of our lovely, amazing regulars here. They don't bite. They will welcome you if you are new to the lives. Well, they might bite. I don't know. Some of them are a little feisty. Okay, we're gonna, lost my train of thought. We're gonna stamp our sentiment. So I'm gonna use that same cupcake set here. No, actually I'm gonna hold off because I think we'll heat emboss the sentiment. So I'm gonna go ahead and lift my panel here. Now you could build on to this as like much or as little as you want to. What if I was going to create a full wreath kind of radiating out with lots of different stamps, I would place my next stamp so it lined up right here, and then I would do either all of them, all of the spaces, or I would do every other space, and I could use 2 different of the smaller stamps. Lots of different options. Right, let's get some coloring done. Now, the nice thing about small stamps is if you are not a colorist, if you are new, or if alcohol marker coloring is just, you know, not your jam kind of thing, the nice thing about really small stamps like this is that you guys, you barely have to color, and you don't have to add really much shading at all. You could like almost skip shading entirely and nobody is going to bat an eyelash. I am, however, going to put on my little reading glasses here. And so I picked out a rainbow, and I'm going to just go through because we have just enough to do red, orange, yellow, green, blue, teal, pink, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, teal, purple. So all the fun colors. Now, yes, I know that pink is in the same family as red, but if I can, I always like to also include pink when I am coloring any kind of rainbow card, just because I love how it looks. Sorry if I get a little bit quiet while I am coloring. It requires a little bit more focus when you are working with small stamps like this. But essentially I'm just filling in that space. I'm not doing any fancy coloring on this. And I do find it helpful when I know I'm going to be coloring a rainbow to pull all of the colors before I get started, because then I can kind of gauge the overall feeling of the rainbow. And what I mean by that is, like, sometimes I want to do a more pastel-like rainbow, and sometimes I want to do a more bold style of rainbow. And if you pick a pastel kind of pink and try and pair it with a bold green and in your rainbow, it might look kind of like it doesn't all go together. And it can be helpful when you see them all side by side to make sure that you kind of have colors that are all going to go together. This also would look cute, this style of card, when you're making little wreaths with small stamps. Also looks great if you just leave it black and white. Don't even have to color. Now, same as with the pink, I know that teal is not in the rainbow, but I like to include it if I can. So we're going to move on to our blue. And what I'm doing is I'm just going from the edge and swiping the color in. You also can make small circles if that's more comfortable. Okay, we've got our purple. There we go. Isn't that cute? Now I'm going to come in here with 07.3, which is kind of like a tan beigey color. And I'm just going to color in the little area underneath the icing where the cake portion is, to make these look like they are vanilla cupcakes. So you could do this with a darker brown if you wanted them to look like chocolate cupcakes. It's the tiniest little space, but it does show and looks nice when it's colored in. Okay, lastly, I'm going to come in with a warm gray one. And I'm just going to swoop in a little bit on the edges of the cupcake wrappers, just to give them a little definition. I'm not worried about the colors because I'm actually going to be making them nice and glittery. So you're really not going to see any shading even if you added it, because we're going to cover those in some sparkly goodness. Okay. Did I get them all? I think I did. All right, there. Look at that. Probably the easiest coloring I have ever done on a live, but super easy peasy. Let's get these out of the way. Put my glasses away here. Give my eyes a second to transition. And now we can do our sentiment. So I'm going to use this cupcake is just for you sentiment. And I'm going to pop this right into the circle. And I'm going to stand up so I can make sure it is nice and centered. I think that's pretty good. of my embossing stuff, guys. Do this in, where is my, here it is. This is Wow in Primary Ebony, super fine. Got my Cottontail embossing powder tool. Oh, got stuck on there. I want to make sure I get really nice deposit of ink. If you ever struggle with heat embossing, it's usually because you're not getting enough of that sticky ink onto your cardstock. So with having a stamp positioner, you can double stamp to make sure you get a really nice coating of it. Now I know there's lots of people that stay far, far away from black embossing powder. You could stamp this in black ink and then just heat emboss it with clear embossing powder. It's also very pretty, gives you a little bit of shine. But I'll tell you, they do look different. Black embossing powder looks different than clear embossing powder over the top of black ink. One has kind of like, with the clear embossing powder, you get the nice shine, but it doesn't look quite as substantial, I guess is the best way to say it, as if you have black embossing powder on there. Now, black embossing powder does tend to stick everywhere, so I just use a little brush to brush away any little excess pieces that want to hang out on my cardstock. And then I just kind of blow them away. Say bye-bye. Go away. We don't want you on our card. Okay. I think I've got them. Sometimes they're hard to see. They hide. Ooh. All right, let's heat up this bad boy. Do you guys use black embossing powder, or do you stick with clear embossing powder over black ink? I'm just curious. I had a comment one time on one of my videos telling me nobody should ever use black embossing powder. And I just kind of had to laugh. Because, you know, don't let anybody ever tell you you can't do something when it comes to crafting, you guys. You can do whatever you want. You have my permission to do whatever you want. All right, so here we've got, hopefully you guys can see that. Got some nice shine on there. And it just creates a nice juxtaposition between the stamped ink and then you have the shininess of the embossed black. I think it looks really nice. Okay, let me get these out of here, out of the way. And then I've got stuff kind of going everywhere. So let me just kind of put it away before it gets lost and I can't find it. Okay, we'll move these out of the way. And now I'm going to cut this down with a circle die. Next size up. There we go. That's perfect. Let me get my tape. I'm using highlighter tape, also known as Easy C tape. It will not tear your paper. I've never had it tear my paper, and I use it all the time. I'm gonna grab my die cutting machine. Hey, you guys are quiet down in the comments today. Normally, there's some chatter. Tell me what you guys are doing. What are you up to on this fine Tuesday? Anybody at work? Or who's home in their jammies still? If I wasn't doing a live, I too would be in my jammies. All right, so now we have our cute little focal piece for our card. Before we move on though, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add some stickles on here so that it can start drying while we work on the other part of our card. And the way I like to do this is to just kind of get a little bit started. This is my favorite stickles, so it's kind of running low. And I just take it around the edge of whatever it is I'm wanting to be glittery. And then I just kind of rub my nozzle all the way around, because stickles does not dry raised, it dries flat. So you really don't need very much on your image in order to get all the glittery goodness. So you can kind of spread it around thin and it'll still have all that lovely sparkle. And while you're doing this, try not to stick your finger in the stickles that you have already put down. I am guilty of that myself, although that usually happens more so when I am using glossy accents. Now, if you ever want to make your stickles look three-dimensional, you want it to dry raised, what I actually recommend doing is putting the stickles on first, letting it dry a little bit, and then just come back over the whole thing with some glossy accents. And then you're going to get all the glitter, but you'll also get that raised look from the glossy accents. Kind of a fun little extra look to a card. Now I will say the only thing you want to be careful about when you are doing kind of this fill in, I guess, motion with the stickles is don't do it for forever, because it is a liquid, so it's going to soften your paper. And if you sat there and continued to do it, it over and over and over, rubbing your nozzle of your stickles on there, it could start lifting your ink or your coloring. Now, something else, if you ever get stickles in a place you don't want them, you know, wipe up the excess really quickly. But if there's still glitter, just leave it there. Let that area completely dry. And then you can come in with a tool that has a pokey end like this. And if you just lightly kind of scratch at the spots where there's the excess glitter that you didn't want, it'll come right off. Went there. So you can already see some of that fun glittery goodness, but it looks even nicer once it dries. So I'm going to set this aside and we can move on to the rest of the card. So for a background, I just have a piece of kind of aqua blue cardstock here, and I'm going to be doing some stenciling over it. And I'm going to use my paper inking palette to hold my stencil and paper in place. This is the 5x6. Picket Fence came out with these, I believe, in the December release. Maybe it was the January release. Anyway, I am loving them. They're great for holding little die cuts in place, for holding your stencils over the top of things that you're wanting to color. So this is the What's Your Sign stencil. And I used this, I think 2 weeks ago as well. I just think it's a really fun and happy little stencil. Now around those edges there, it's going to stick to the palette, so nothing's going to go anywhere. It's going to be held down and be really simple to stencil. And I'm going to use my paper pouncer here. I like to use this one for kind of my teal colors. And I'm just going to go all the way along and make sure I get coverage all the way across the stencil. The other nice thing about having the stencil on a palette like this is you can do things like really easily lift up your stencil to check kind of the darkness of your stenciling and just pop it right back down, and it's gonna go right in the same spot. So I want this to be kind of bold on the background, so I'm gonna add a fair bit of ink all the way across here. The nice thing about doing this on a sticky surface like the inking palette, but keeping the backing on the palette on the back, is that I can still move this all over to make it really easy for me to get to exactly where I'm wanting to color. You know, I can lift up that ink that's on my glass mat and still use it. All right, and just like that, we have colored the whole stencil. Make sure I didn't miss any spots. Let's see how dark it is. Let's see if I want to do a second layer or not. No, I think that's pretty good. It's just going to be some nice little tone on tone. So put this away. here, set it aside. I'm just gonna wipe off my palette here real quick. And my work surface. Sorry for squeaky sounds. And then since I'm going to be done with this paper pouncer, I personally, I'm kind of a, I guess, neat freak. So I always clean my pouncers off every time I'm done. But all you need to do is just spritz a little bit of water on a towel, dab on there, and then pounce off your pouncer, and that's it. Then it'll be ready to go. I'm going to cut this down a little bit. You could use a paper cutter, a paper trimmer to do this. I'm going to use a little rectangle die. Let me grab my die cutting machine again. Now I was also thinking that this stencil would look really cute if it was all done in, normally I would not use tape, but for this, but I'm on a live, so let's not be wild here. There we go. Perfecto. This is going to give us a nice little white border on our card, which I'm always a fan of a border. It kind of frames your card out and just makes it look nice and finished, I feel like. So we've got our card base here that I just need to fold really quickly. And try not to jump out of the groove on your scoreboard if you score your own card cases. Happens to me more often than I would like to admit. And then I have a big giant groove on my card base that I did not want. Okay, so we're gonna have our nice little background piece here, and that ink is still drying, so it's going to dry back even more, so it's going to very much look tone on tone. And then let's see how our little cupcake piece is doing. It's starting to dry, but it's still definitely a little bit wet. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this to my card base. Try and make sure it is nice and lined up. Come on, go where you're supposed to. Do you guys talk to your cards? I talk to them all the time. Come on. This is where, remember I was telling you guys, you're getting 75% Charlene because I haven't had all my coffee yet. This is where it's showing. I think this is not, I think my base is not the right size. No, it's just me. It is just me, friends. It is nothing wrong with my base. So let's try that again. Maybe I'll stand up this time. Okay, we're just gonna go with that. I don't know why, but for some reason it doesn't look like an even border all the way around for me. Just, that's good enough though. All right, let me get some foam tape here. And I'm just gonna use this piece here. Be careful not to stick my finger in there. I'm going to cut this down a little bit. Uh-oh. Maybe do it over here so I don't drop stuff on there. Okay, that should work just fine. Now, normally I would say don't do what I'm doing, but because I'm live and I want you guys to see the finished card, even though my stickles are still wet, I'm gonna go ahead and start assembling. Being very careful to hopefully not stick my finger in there. All right, let's line this bad boy up, huh? I like to line my cards up on my glass mat because then it kind of helps me get a sense of where the center is of things. There we go. Now you can see that added quite a bit of loft, but it should still mail because it's not the whole thing. So it's just this centerpiece. So that's the only part that's really gonna add any bulk if this is a card that I mail. So just something to think about. So the stickles are starting to dry. Look how pretty that is. All that glittery goodness. So fun. Okay, should we add sequins, you guys? I don't know. What do we think? Sequins, yes or no? I could bring in, I've got the All About the Teals. We could use All About the Blues. No. I've got pinks, yellows. We could use my go-to, which is the Iridescent Moonshine. I'm thinking these. Oh, here's a little tip for you guys. This just reminded me of that. For some reason, my All About the Teals, when I got them, they were really staticky. And so if I get a sequin mix that's really kind of more staticky than I like, I take a teeny tiny piece of a dryer sheet and I put it in my sequins. And it helps them to just not be so staticky. Works great. So there's your tip for today. Let's see what we think about sequins here, guys. Let's look. I feel like maybe a couple of sequins would look nice on each side, but I don't know. Ooh, I don't love that. Maybe some silver. Let me look. Oh, I also have, I wonder if this would look nice. I've got the Day and Night Gem Mix. And I could bring in some of the little crystal gems and kind of put them on the centers of little spots around here and there. Ooh, I kind of like that. Let's see what that looks like with a couple of them on there. There's several different sizes. What do we think? With or without, guys? Not seeing any votes. What do we think? I don't know. Don't know. I feel like that one's too big. Maybe another little one. Just do little ones. Probably way overthinking this. I have a habit of doing that though. What if we don't try and like center them around on stuff? Maybe? All right. I'm not seeing any votes either way, so I think I'm gonna do it right there. We'll just add a couple of tiny little gemstones. I don't even know, now that I'm looking up at the camera feed, that you guys can even see that, but they're just tiny little sparkly gemstones. Let's go ahead and add them. Arg. Just kidding, guys. Maybe I'll leave them off. I can't decide. Well, that concludes our regularly scheduled programming for today. Thanks for joining me, guys. You got to watch me fumble around with jewels for a few minutes there. But here is our finished card. We've got all of that lovely sparkle on the top of our cupcakes and our cute little tone-on-tone background that we did. And this is just a real sweet, simple birthday card that, or frankly, it doesn't have to be a birthday card. Cupcakes can be for any time. I hope you guys picked up some tips and tricks. Let me switch it over here. Where are we? Let's switch back. You can see me frazzled from my trying to make a decision about sequins. I will post a picture over on, well, you'll see it as the thumbnail for the YouTube video once I decide if I want sequins or gems on here. Be sure to like and subscribe, guys. It really helps get the video out to people, and I so appreciate that. And then also you'll see there's a little bell. If you click that and you change your notifications to all, it's going to notify you then anytime there is a video or anytime there is a live happening. So if you want to get reminded about future lives, definitely be sure to do that. We have had such an awesome start to this year, 2024. If you guys haven't checked out the YouTube channel, if you go now, you're going to see there's lots of videos already for the year. We have an awesome team. We've got some videos from Amy Rice Savvy. We've got some from Kelly Taylor. We have some already posted from Erin Thompson. Just lots and lots of inspiration using the fun new release from January. So be sure to do all that. And if you guys enjoyed yourself, come back next Tuesday, noon Central, and come hang out with me again. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Bye.